Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to the code. Oh, look at Lexi. Are you wearing?
I have little, yes, light earrings. I wore them today because this will come out on Tuesday before Christmas. So might as well wear them now.
Do
Very
they
good,
light
very
up,
good. Oh, I
Lexi?
got something I could share. Hold on.
They don't light up, unfortunately. I got them from a little Christmas market. So in Tampa. What does Paul have?
We took the kids to see Santa.
Oh, a Christmas picture. Oh, guys, if you're
Yeah.
not on YouTube, you're missing out.
And they are old enough now, none of them cry when they see Santa.
Well, that's good.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay, question of the day. I feel like it's definitely should be Christmas themed. So tell us where in the comments below, tell us where you're spending Christmas. Like, I know some people stay put, some
Hmm.
people travel to like where they were born and raised, some people go on ski trips. So tell us where you're going to be at for Christmas.
Yeah. Where are you going? My kids don't listen to the podcast, so I can say what we're doing. The
Okay.
day after Christmas, we're taking the kids on a ski trip.
Oh,
Well,
So
that'll
that's
be
going to be
great.
fun. That'll be lots of
we'll see
fun.
how much actually is skiing, but we'll see.
I will be
It's in
going
like upstate New
to
York. It's in like Buffalo. Yeah, we're trying something different.
Nice.
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I will be headed back to the Midwest. One time a year I go back is usually Christmas. So that's where I'll be
Mm.
at.
Actually, be staying around here. Been a lot of travel lately, and then I'm going. One of our friends is getting married in Miami the week after Christmas, so we'll be going down there for that. And it's been a lot of traveling, so I'd like to not go somewhere for a few days.
No, I totally get that. Actually, funny enough, what I'm looking forward to is I fly to St. Louis on Saturday, and every year Tampa International Airport they always have some like fun Christmas thing going on. In like I don't know what you call it, like near the Flamingo, Phoebe. But last year they had
Hmm.
this like whole band playing Christmas music. And then actually, when we came back from Dallas on Saturday, there was a guy playing a xylophone of Christmas music in front of the Flamingo. So I'm curious what they'll have on Saturday in preparation for Christmas.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the flamingo's name is Phoebe, that big
Yeah.
flamingo.
That's like officially, yes, that is the Flamingo's name at Tampa International. And I think I always call her that. Like that's literally her official name. And somebody one time thought I just named her, but like no, when they built her, there was like a whole name contest. So yeah, that's her official name.
Does she have a name tag or a plaque up that says her name anywhere?
Let me report back to you on Saturday.
Yeah,
I'll look. I'll
I
look.
should know that.
I'll send you guys a selfie in front of her.
Phoebe's a big girl.
She's big, yeah.
She's been doing her off-season programming quite well.
Yeah. Phoebe is like coming to Florida, like when you go to Pittsburgh and you see the T-Rex, you just know where you're at.
Yep.
Yes, Phoebe, she's a very emotionless girl too, because she just has that stare. So,
Just like most females these days. All right, I'm gonna get off that high
oh
horse before we get on
gosh.
it.
Well,
That's
if
Stop
the
you guys
laughing,
Botox,
Paul.
Evan. That's the Botox.
if you guys have not caught on by the title, we figured, naturally all three of us were at NPC Nationals this past weekend in Dallas. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, do a little recap, and then I think we're gonna talk a little bit about like how to know as an athlete if you are nationals ready. Because, I think it depends on the regional show, but I would say there's a pretty big difference bikini wise, especially, not maybe fit model as much, but there's a pretty big jump from like regional bikini to national bikini, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about like what makes an athlete nationals ready, whether you're fit model, bikini, or wellness. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk a little bit about Nationals weekend because we were all there. We all had eyes on it. We all got to see it up close and personal. We were paying attention, especially with the bikini and the fit model divisions. But I did also watch a little bit of figure and a little bit of wellness because I was just curious. So when we got to check-ins on Thursday, I realized a couple of my competitors had a number in the 350 range, 325, 350, which was like a shockingly high number, I think. Um,
We almost thought the numbers maybe started at 100.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
how can this be accurate? But we soon realized what happened. The fit model blew up.
Oh, yes, it did.
It was huge. Yeah. I think, oh, I wish I had the
So you
screen.
know what and I think I probably said this to you guys. I said, well, okay, if the numbers are that high, that means because we're in Texas,
Hmm.
Texas is a very bodybuilding centric state. I maybe figure just showed up this year. So I
Nope.
looked, and figure was actually down again.
Yeah.
Figure, this is unbelievable. Figure at nationals this year, there was 54 competitors, and they gave
And
out
that's,
16 pro cards.
Wow.
geez.
I almost wonder, and there's really no way of knowing this unless like you would have to stalk all the athletes, but I almost wonder with like bikini evolving the way it has over the past couple of years. And I think not for nothing, a lot of people have said like, oh my gosh, a lot of these bikini competitors could almost do figure, but I almost wonder if there have been figure competitors that have gone to bikini, and that's also, been part of why the number has gone down. I don't know, just curious.
Well, yeah, and I think even wellness. So last year at nationals, wellness had 77 total. This year they had 62. So you're at
And
11 less figure, 15 less wellness, but the total number of athletes at nationals for women went up.
but what's interesting too is the number of divisions in each one of those. Wellness has four classes. Figure has eight.
Yeah, they have not.
Eight.
Yeah, they no, I mean, and if I went on the website today to just look, and there were two or three classes in figure that had six or five.
6, 8, 6, 8, 10, 8, 7, 9.
Right. So there was not even one class with a call out.
Nope.
And every single class that walked up there, top two is getting a pro card. Listen, they got to adjust this. And I'll even say this. They need to adjust it with bikini before it gets too late.
I agree.
Because we were watching bikini and we thought the numbers looked pretty good, right? No.
Was
They
it like
lost 30
126, right?
competitors, 30 less than last year,
Was it
down
about
to
Well,
126?
143 in bikini.
but okay, so I was thinking about that the other day because I was looking at the numbers, and I think I actually had somebody DM me asking me about like did bikini shrink this year? And technically speaking, yes, but I also feel like if you think about it, I mean, a lot of the fit model girls used to be bikini
Of
competitors.
course.
So,
Well, the
Hmm.
that's kind of
show, there was more women this year than last year.
yeah.
But it's all shifting towards the fit model division, which just is very reminiscent of 2010 and 11 when figure was the dominant division, and then they introduced bikini, and then everyone laughed and said, "Oh, this is silly." And then within 2 or 3 years, it was becoming very clear. And so, what we saw this week was the largest class of the day was a fit model class, 36
Yep.
competitors in one class.
Yeah.
And
No,
listen, I don't think that's going to slow down. I don't think that's going to slow down at all. So yeah, what was impressive about the bikini division was the quality
quality.
of the first call outs. Those top five girls are coming in ready, like dialed in. Um, in some cases, like ready to be pros, better than the pros. Like these girls look amazing. But when you consider that the Ben Weeder, which just happened, had almost 120 bikini and Nationals only had 143, that's pretty crazy. That's an indication to me that women are more interested in, doing less stuff to compete. Um, the divisions are just getting more and more well defined.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of cool to sit there and watch Fit Model. And I know you said this, Paul. You were like, this reminds me of the old days where, gosh, I mean, there were 36 girls in Class B, and
B.
just having all of them at the sides, standing there, and then they actually had like multiple call outs was kind of
Hmm.
cool to see because, I
Yeah.
know we've seen some shows earlier this year, like national shows where there aren't more than one call out. Like girls will be like, oh, first call outs, but like there's only one call out. And I mean, these fit model classes, there were
Yeah.
several call outs, second call outs, third call outs. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, it was really neat to see. And I was just really eager going into the show to study fit model a little bit more. Like I just was curious to see if like what was going to be rewarded, and because this was going to be the last national show of the year, and this is officially marks about a year of fit model being a thing.
Mhm.
So it was interesting to see kind of what they were gravitating towards. And I don't know about you guys, but something I do want to preface by saying is being there in person, I know we weren't like right where the judges were at, but we were in the center. But I have seen some of the pictures of these fit model girls on Instagram and some of the videos, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they looked so different in person. Like I've
Yes.
had some girls, sending me pictures of different winners and saying, "Oh my gosh, they look like they have so much muscle." And I was like, I promise in person, it did not look that way. So I feel like there was a big gap in kind of what it looks like on social media versus what it actually looked like in person. Because I don't feel like what they rewarded was too muscular whatsoever, especially being there in person.
I think there was a decent amount of muscle. I don't think it was overly muscular. I think what was impressive, and me and Paul, we saw the girl who won the class C out in the lobby up close, and we were questioning why she was posing, almost not even posing in her back pose. And we walked by her in the lobby, like, that's why she's not posing in her back pose, because she was pretty peeled, like
Very lean,
pretty,
like
very lean.
very, her abs were completely etched in, and
Yeah.
she had a little bit of glute hamstring separation. So the way she was, and she won the class, the way she
Hmm.
was resolving that was by posing very like in a muted, she wasn't
Yeah.
pushing, she
No.
wasn't flexing, she was just almost just standing there, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I mean, impressive physique. And a lot
Mhm.
of these girls, I think, were impressive physiques. They really were. And what's interesting too is how they did this here to speed it up was once they got on stage, they didn't get off stage. So all the girls got on stage, they did their comparisons, their initials, and they stayed on stage for call out. So that
The
it
show
saved a
did run
lot of
very
time.
fast.
Yeah.
It ran so fast that they actually took multiple breaks. One
Yeah.
break, specifically when I was backstage, the makeup company that was working with the show called down and said, "Hey, we have a lot of bikini girls still in the chair, a lot of Fit Model, because Fit Model went first in the chair." So they actually took a 15-minute break after Figure finished. Now, initially I thought, oh, the numbers are higher this year. Figure wellness, they must be bigger. No, they were smaller. The
Mhm.
only difference was the Fit Model, which did not exist last year, had over 100 individual competitors, 102 to be exact.
Yeah.
And
The classes were huge in those classes too. It was 16, 32, 26, 28, I think, in the
yeah,
four
yeah.
classes.
What's funny is still the short class, which is the biggest in bikini, is the smallest in Fit
Hmm.
Model.
And I think that's pretty easy to understand too, because shorter girls,
Yeah,
it's easier to put on the muscle that you need. It just
yeah.
is. So
Right.
most of those girls that train hard are gonna have higher numbers in the little bit more muscular classes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so the tally for, so I'll get off my statistics here in a minute because I just, I took the time to do them. So last year between Junior USA's, Junior Nationals, USA's and Nationals, those are the four national shows. I know we all talk about nationals. Those are the four national shows. There was 460 bikini competitors. This year 438. So not that big of a drop off, right? A little bit of a drop off. But last year there was zero fit model. Between those four shows alone, there was 250 fit model competitors.
Yeah,
If they did not add fit model this year, some of these national shows might not be happening in the future. When people go, "Oh, it's a money grab," well, yeah, like you can't have a show without people paying money to compete and buy tickets and all these things. I got a sneaking suspicion the fit model division saved a few promoters this year.
I'm for sure it did. I mean, even Tyler put out a video about how much it had grown this year. And we both said beginning of the year, it's probably going to, or by the end of next year, it's probably going to overtake bikini. And I fully expect that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been having a conversation with I mean, and this has been all year, but a lot, even a lot more so now. I've been having frequently a conversation with several of my athletes that, originally wanted to do bikini, and having that conversation with them of like, hey, okay, I personally think if you want to get on stage and you want to place the best you're able to place, like I think we should consider fit model. And a lot of people have been very open to that. I think especially seeing what Fit Model has evolved into this year. I think a lot more people are like they like the division a little bit more than maybe they did at the beginning of the year. So I don't know about you guys, but that's just a conversation I've been having a little bit more frequently is, kind of
Mhm.
gearing some girls more towards Fit Model.
The wow factor. It's
Ah,
it's you have to show that you have to have wow factor to be competitive. And I had one competitor this year tell me, I don't want to do fit model because I got beat by somebody whose physique I don't want. And that's a very telling sign. Like you want to compete in a division where you go, wow, that's the look that I want. And
yeah.
these winners, these fit model overall champions and pro card winners, they have some wow factor when you look at them.
Oh, they
Yeah.
do. They do. Yeah, I agree. You want to compete in a division that you like the look of, but you also have to be realistic too. And I mean, there are like some people, that realistically speaking, yeah, they could do bikini, but do they really want to get on stage and not even get looked at and be, not quite what they're looking for in bikini? So I think it's a kind of a mixture of like, yes, you should do a division that you like the look of, but you also have to be realistic with, with your physique and your genetics and your potential as well.
I mean, I'll bring up like my client Dakota as an example. She last year did Amateur Olympia and she was very end of the last call outs in bikini. Granted, we made improvements significantly into this year, but she went to fit model and at this show she ended up fourth and was 1 point out of third place. And with some easy changes where I think she'll end up winning probably one of the
Well,
next
and
shows that she
and
does.
for
And
anyone that doesn't know, she was moved directly to the middle, stayed there for the entirety of prejudging, and at the last turn they moved her out.
yeah.
So she was right there.
But there's definitely some things we can improve, I think, pretty easily with her to get her over that hump with it. But again, because she has a lot of the body part, she just doesn't have the density needed for a bikini. But for fit models, she flows in it perfectly. So it's about being realistic on what your strengths are and playing to those strengths.
100%. Yeah, this is that's why it's a fun new division because it just reminds me of early days bikini where it's not just who's the most jacked
Hmm.
and who's the leanest, which is what bikini is becoming, right? Like they're literally judging the bikini division, and we saw it. When we saw the bikini overall, I remember just looking up there and going, "Okay, who's the most jacked?" And it was the girl in D, and I was like, "Oh yeah." And some of the girls, like my former client Talia, who I coached at the Ben Weider, she was a natural athlete then. She looked amazing and got our pro card, and we thought, "Oh, she could win the overall today." But when we
Yeah.
got in the overall lineup, she looked small compared to the
Hmm.
other girls. Sometimes you look great in your
Yep.
class. It's a muscle competition bikini now. You have to be the
Yeah.
biggest and the most conditioned.
I mean, I think we both, Paul, thought when Talia got on stage, we're like, she's probably going to win the overall. Like, we both thought that her grip shape was great. And then she got up there and she was just, a little outsized compared to some of those other
Yeah,
girls
and they
still.
just they moved her out and they moved a taller
Mhm.
girl in. They
Yeah.
which is not something you always see in a muscular division, but the taller competitors were bigger. Um, so yeah, the bikini
That girl had
division,
gobs of muscle. That girl had
I think
gobs
I
of
think
muscle.
that's one thing that's happening now is there is a very clear delineation that bikini is muscularity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And and don't judge if you go to regional shows, you see bikini and fit model, you cannot judge it based off that muscularity between the divisions. If you go to a national show, there is a distinct difference, a very distinct difference that
For
even an
sure.
untrained eye can look at and be like, oh, that's not the same.
Yeah.
Well,
When
the
you see
the
them back to back like that at a national show, it's like, whoa, there is a big difference. And it's funny
Yeah.
too, because it's not even just, I mean, yes, size, but it's almost like it's volumetric wise, not necessarily the size. It's more of like the density of the muscle and the leanness of bikini compared to fit model, right? Like that's the biggest, I would say, differentiation is just that like the way the muscle looks. Bikini is way denser, way more kind of cut and just lean, whereas fit model, like volumetric wise, the competitor may not be a ton smaller, but they just don't have that same look with the muscle.
Yeah. Well, and that's the illusion that you create when you get low body fat.
Yeah.
The girl that won the overall and fit model, I think all of us were kind of shocked because of how muscular she looked up there compared to everyone else. But had she dieted down a few more pounds, she probably would have might even looked bikini, because she had that muscle, that dense muscle. So she brought in the right level of conditioning, or she softened herself up. Like I said with the fit model, what Evan brought up earlier with the posing is when the division is defined a certain way, you can kind of navigate that multiple ways through posing, through peaking. So it's about presenting a physique that, you know, you don't stand out. As weird as that
Mhm.
sounds, you don't veer too far and too soft or too hard. You kind
No.
of just fit the criteria without drawing negative attention.
You stand out, but you stand out in a different way than people think you would stand out. You stand out with your
Yeah.
presentation, your posing. You definitely like almost all of us. We can look when someone walks out, we're like, okay, she's going to be in the mix. And almost
Mhm.
every time they are with
Mhm.
it. So you definitely stand out, but it's not in the muscularity way. And that girl that won the overall, that girl got muscle on her. She
Oh, yeah.
absolutely has muscle on her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She
But
did.
again,
I feel like fit model is and I've said this about bikini before too, but I guess, everything evolves. I feel like this applies more to fit model now. It's not the coolest physique off stage for fit model is not the one that you're seeing win on stage, right? Like we saw a couple girls on stage for fit model that had, pretty distinct oblique lines, ab lines, cap shoulders, and, they had a great cool physique off stage, but that was not what was being rewarded at the fit model level.
Yeah, there was the young lady that won the Class D. I saw her backstage, and she as soon as I saw her, I thought, oh, that might be your overall winner. And I think she was in the mix to win the overall. That she was one of those that I was like, wow. When you see them walking around, you're like, dang.
Yes, I remember when we were watching the overall poll. I think that's who you said you thought was going to win the overall, and I had the girl, the one that won it. But I remember you said you thought the girl in Class D was just she had that captivating look, like she was just
Hmm.
beautiful, elegant on stage, had that beautiful grace and flow. So yeah, it was
It's
interesting.
always so, we were quite a ways back for the overall.
Yeah.
It's when you're up close, you just see flaws and shapes and things that you can't see from far away. But yeah, um, yeah, and like everyone always asks, like, what's the trend? What are we seeing? And I'll say for me, it just continues to be, it's all about creating shape on stage. You have to have the structure, the muscle, and the genetics to create that super hourglass look up there. Um, like the shoulder to waist ratio has to be really nice to look at.
Yeah, I think, I've said this before, but I think, yeah, that shape. And then for fit models specifically, like, finding that angle in your front pose that suits your waistline the best. So making sure that waistline looks nice and tight and tiny. Not to say you need to turn it all the way to the side, but I think that's another thing that, I mean, that really helps with shape. Yeah, the shape, and then I mean the the beauty, the not skimping on your hair, not
Yeah.
skimping on your makeup, your skin quality being good. Like that all kind of just pieces everything together and really does create that wow factor and that it factor on stage. And we've said that before, that with fit model, with what the physique criteria is, it almost makes it even more important to ensure that all those little extra kind of nuanced things, such as, your hair, your makeup, your skin quality, your tan, your suit, those things are really, really important for this division.
Yep. Yep. And it's a throwback. It just definitely, because there's been times in the past, not so much now, where I would think, oh, there's the bikini competitor who has a better physique, but she would get beat by someone that just you couldn't take your eyes off of. Whereas now, the physique that's almost the freakiest in bikini wins, who's got the craziest proportions, the craziest conditioning, craziest density. That's where you just know they're going to be in the mix. Whereas with Fit Model, that's not the case. It's not freakiness at all. It's the overall balance and look that you're drawn to. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
And it's even prompted me to reach out to a couple of old clients that I've worked with that did not like getting that lean for bikini. They didn't feel comfortable to get by
right.
dysmorphia out of it. Their shape is incredible, but they didn't like that part of it. They just didn't. And that's kind of prompted me to reach out to a couple of them. It's like, hey, have you considered maybe thinking about this? It'll take all the good parts you like about competing and get rid of the parts that you kind of don't. Um, and, because the effort to get to fit model conditioning in high level national bikini conditioning is significantly different.
Well,
The effort it takes.
now it's crazy. Now
It's
it's
vastly different.
I mean, you're probably talking about for some competitors 10 to 12 to 15 pounds difference.
Mhm.
We'll see with the first pro shows what happens. That's going to be where it gets interesting because you're going to have a lot of these pros that are retired bikini competitors coming out. And I know, I have a few, and I know what we're discussing. And I've spoken to the pro and national judges. I've even shown them videos to get feedback to say, what do you think? And what's nice is they don't really have a super strong opinion right now. They're like, it's going to depend what happens. And I've been told, because I always like to ask, what's what's a no-go? What's like a definitive way to just not fit the criteria? And I was basically told if your muscularity is outside of the norm or your conditioning is outside of the norm of that lineup, right? So, it's going to be interesting when
Yeah.
they set that standard of what to look for because right now they don't have that standard. They're going to wait till they see the girls in a lineup and go, you're too lean, you're too muscular. Okay, now who's kind of the best of all those worlds? And that's how they're going to
Yeah.
get their winners early on.
And I do think that's really real interesting because, we talked about, some of the feedback from one of my clients who has a good amount of muscle, but doesn't have as much muscle as a lot of the pros that are going to be coming over to the division. They told her, hey, you're way too big. And they'll tell other girls, hey, you just lose a little bit here and you'll be fine. So, it's about how you stand up in the lineup. And I think that is a
Yeah.
super important part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the girl that won the overall here at this show at Nationals very well might not won the overall at regional show. She might not have.
I was told she
She
had
had a
never
good
won
amount of
an
muscle.
overall.
Yep, and
That's
I can
what
absolutely see that.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. And I mean, we're seeing a lot of that. I mean, we talked about my client Ebony a couple weeks ago who won the Ben Weeder overall. She hadn't won an overall before doing
Right.
Weeder. I don't even think, trying to remember if we even got a first in her class earlier in the year. Like, and
Yeah, but she made a significant change to her body fat
yeah,
between competitions. She would have
we
won any
definitely.
overall she walked into at that point.
Yeah, she also, I will say, like, I think I said this in prior podcasts. She started like competing in regional shows really early on in the year, when Fit Model was still so like new and there were like the shows were tiny. So yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, we're seeing some girls that are winning their pro cards in Fit Model who haven't won an overall yet, or maybe not
Well,
even
and
in
I
their
don't, you guys
class.
didn't go to the Mel Chancey show with me, but the girl that won the fit model overall there won the overall at North Americans. And when she came out, she looked a little bit out of place. She was a little more muscular and a little bit leaner, but she
Hmm.
looked really good. And I actually asked David, I said, what made you pick her for the overall winner? And he's like, yeah, she was a little leaner than everybody else, but she wasn't bikini lean. And so, and she obviously went to North Americans, won that overall in like back-to-back weeks
Hmm.
coming out of nowhere. And that's kind of the fun thing about this
And
division.
I,
Yeah.
and
And
I know
actually,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. I know that girl personally, and we've chatted on Instagram before she decided to compete. And I told her because she wanted to do OCB bikini, I was like, you need to do fit model. I was like, you would crush it. And she came out of nowhere and won it overall at a national show, which I figured that was going to be the case. You
yeah,
can just look at people and tell
yeah.
if they're going to fit it or not.
Well, she did at that Mel show. She might have done True Novice or Novice, whatever. When she walked out, I said, there's your overall winner. No one's
Yep.
beating that today. She just has that. There's just no flaws. Great structure, great muscularity, great beauty.
Great balance.
Skin color was great. Like,
Hmm.
it was like, dang.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like another thing I noticed, and I mean, this is kind of the same with like, I feel like this is a common thing that a lot of females run into with bikini as well. But another thing I noticed with Fit Model this past weekend is, a lot of girls I would say have a really good front pose. And like they're perfect conditioning in the front, but then they turn around and maybe they're just a little too soft in the back pose. So then that kind of leaves you with like, as a competitor, okay, you have two options, right? In order to get your glutes to be a little bit more conditioned, you can get more conditioned, but that may mean you're too lean in the front pose, or you can just go and build more glute muscle and more tissue to support the glutes a little bit better so they look a little bit leaner, not having to get as lean or not having to get as low with body fat. So I saw that being a thing too, because I saw a couple girls and I was like, damn, like their front poses looked phenomenal. But then they would turn around and it was like, okay, you could see where they maybe needed to drop a little bit more body fat in the glutes to kind of match their back pose to their front pose. But again, I feel like that's something we also see a lot with bikini. I know, I feel like that's every competitor's kind of trouble area is the glutes. And I feel like a lot of people, the way body fat falls off of a physique is the glutes are the last area it falls off at. Sometimes it's like you can see somebody from the front and they look ready for a show, but then they turn around and it's like, oh, okay, we got a couple more pounds to come down in the back. So,
Hmm.
but that's another thing I just kind of observed.
Well, and this can be, because fat loss is so, genetically predisposed, this can be a problem where I had a competitor this year that we had some stubborn little fat pockets on her glutes, on their outer thighs. And so we kept dieting down until that was gone. And by the time that was gone, her abs and her lower back were so lean that she was getting feedback that her core was too tight. So
Yeah.
it's like, that there is a genetic component to this where, you're going to have to diet all the fat off. And what I'm hoping is now that I've got that fat off her, I can kind of recomp her without putting that fat back on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of where I feel like coaching gets kind of fun because you have to kind of experiment how to troubleshoot through that because obviously there's not so much you can do about genetics, but you can, find little loopholes to kind of work within them and
Mhm.
sometimes create the illusion of that polished physique.
Listen,
So,
this is where coaching becomes an art form because especially in this division, you can
Yeah.
change an athlete's look by the way you peak them. This might be a situation where actually depleting an athlete into stage gets a better look. The early years of bikini, almost all the coaches were doing water cutting protocols and girls were winning. Why? Because the division was not defined by full muscles and it was not defined by, muscularity. It was defined by shape and balance. So this is where like the fit model division, a more muscular, leaner athlete, if you soften them up through bad peaking practices, um, they might actually fit the criteria better, look a little flatter and a little more muted. Whereas with bikini, you cannot go into a bikini competition depleted and deflated. You must be extremely lean and extremely filled out. It is a full-on bodybuilding division now.
Mhm.
No one is telling a bikini girl she's too lean. Like when I saw, I don't, were you guys in the posing room when I saw Valerie the day before the show? Were you guys at?
I was in there,
I
yeah.
wasn't.
I was, yeah, Evan wasn't there, but Lexi, when I saw her, I was like, uh-oh, we're too lean. Because I could see her adductor
Yeah.
completely separated. Her glutes were striating at the top. Her obliques were fully feathered. And I'm like, and she told me, she's like, listen, I don't want to be aggressive with food. She was a little nervous, right? So I said, okay. So I'm like, we're just going to come into the show very lean. She still might not even been the leanest girl in her class.
Yeah.
And that she was right there. She was in the middle. They moved her to third. Like that's just where bikini is now. Like you can come in almost as lean as you can get outside of like
Yeah.
crazy feathering in your glutes. You can be lean.
Yeah.
And especially with the fit model division too. So some things that I've learned throughout the year with working with athletes is, again, Paul, I think you're right. I think athletes, depending on their genetic disposition, may need to, if let's say core tightness is an issue they kind of run into, maybe depleting them into a show is better with that
Yeah.
than getting their food up. But if their core is a little bit too hard, then dieting them down hard and then filling them back up so their core is almost a little bit watered out and a little bit distended almost can fit the division better if they're tighter in the core naturally with it. So, there is nuance to this division to creating shape, unless you're just a genetic marvel. And those are out there. They absolutely are out there.
Yeah.
Those girls are super, super easy. But if, a girl typically may have just a little bit wider waist if she has food and food is a little bit higher, maybe depleting him into it's good, or maybe water loading him is good, or maybe water cutting him is good. Like things do actually make a difference that you can kind of overcome some genetic limitations. And it's interesting as the division evolves, as you see it more, learning more about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we were all in the same boat this past year. And, I know us three, we've talked about this before. Like, nobody, even if they claim to, like, nobody knows this division 100% this year. We're all still learning, even the judges. And they've all, said that along the way as well. But I do feel like next year, when we see the pro shows start to happen and we get more of that, like, standard, I think it'll be a lot more clear cut as to like what they're looking for. And I don't think there will be as much like learning that needs to go into it. I mean, of course, everything evolves and you still have to learn over time, but I think it'll be a little bit more definitive next year about like exactly what they're looking for once we have that, that first pro fit model champion, and a little bit more of a standard.
And again, for even athletes we've worked with for over a period of time that were bikini previously that are transitioning to fit model, getting their bodies ready for stage at a little bit higher body fat percentage is not the same as it is getting them ready for stage at a lower. It's not. They may require something different than that to get their physique to fit the standard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the idea of, what makes an athlete nationals ready for fit model and bikini. Because I feel like there is a bit of a, like I said at the beginning, there's a bit of a jump when personally, I feel like from bikini at a regional level compared to a national level. But fit model, I would say there's not as big of a jump. So let's talk a little bit about like, in our eyes as a coach, what do we look for in, in order for an athlete or to bring an athlete to nationals? Because I think a lot of people, some people, they qualify for nationals and they want to go to nationals, but, we all know that doesn't always mean an athlete is ready to step on that stage.
Well, I think the most important thing is to understand what you're seeing at nationals. A lot of the girls that I, have consults with, and this is a good time, guys, if you're looking to compete this year, set up a consult with us for free because this is exactly the type of thing we talk about is, okay, what should be my goal for the year? And a lot of my fit model competitors, what I'm telling them is the criteria is changing so much from show to show and based on who's there. If you're in a good place physically and you can afford it, let's keep going. So I had a girl, Allie, who got like, uh, she was not first call outs at Ben Weider, right? And Evan had the same situation with Dakota. She was not in the mix at Ben Weider. She was like outside of the first call out.
She was ninth.
Both of
Yeah.
our girls at nationals did better. Evans almost turned pro. My girl finished sixth in a class of 25, where she placed worse in a smaller class at a drug-free show. So, like, because these standards are changing and you can manipulate variables like posing and peaking and conditioning in a short amount of time, I'm taking athletes in the fit model division to the national stage a little quicker than I would. Whereas a bikini athlete, if you can't walk in and win a bikini overall, you're wasting your time going to nationals.
Yep.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And, it's funny because I've had some consults recently with girls that have, like for Fit Model, that they competed maybe in like November or October, and look at their stage pictures and they're really close to kind of hitting that mark. And we're having discussions of like maybe getting them back on stage in the spring. Now granted, with bikini, I don't feel like that's a conversation most of the time you're able to have with athletes. Like with bikini, usually you do have to take that longer time off in between seasons. But I feel like with Fit Model, like you said, Paul, I mean, if an athlete has the means to do so, you know, just keep going, keep getting in front of the judges, keep getting in the mix of different athletes. Because, I mean, if you're close to that look, I mean, all it takes is you showing up at a show, on the right day at the right time with the right look. So I feel like, yeah, I've been having the discussion more with athletes of, a forfeit model of just competing more next year, even if that means they didn't get a huge break in between seasons. Because a lot of times with the fit model preps, I mean, I'm not saying it's not hard by any means, but it doesn't take as big of a beating on the body. So you don't really need as much of that like recovery window after prep. Granted, if you've ever gotten to like that bikini stage level of conditioning, you almost need you need some good time afterwards to just chill, relax, and let your body recover. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, completely agree with all of that on there. And especially when it comes to fit model too, if we're talking about things that are important for it, I think making sure that you can nail your hair and makeup, making sure that your presentation is on point, making sure that you can keep your waist good and tight, making sure that you can hit your pose correctly with it, front and the back, the transitions, things like that matter. Things like that matter.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing I think is important to consider if you are somebody looking at going into the fit model division is, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but I feel like, I mean, being in any division, you have to have thick skin. You're going to lose more than you win. But I almost feel like with fit model, especially, you have to have thick skin because you could go into a show and bring your best and place your worst. And then you could go into the next show and maybe you don't look as good, but you place better. Like, I feel like we're seeing more of that in fit model. So I feel like, as an athlete, you have to realize that is part of it. And you have to have that thick skin and knowing, like, because this is a new division, you are sometimes, seeing that happening where you could bring your best physique, but it could be your worst placing. And then you could go into the next show with the worst physique and, place better. Like that is just part of the division right now.
And look, judges have different opinions on it, right?
Yes.
I can tell, I already know, like for to go to next year, I know who we're going to put in front of at national shows. I'm very aware of that. Just because I know they like her look and her style. Um, some judges have a little bit different opinion on things. It's a subjective division right now, and I know we go over that a lot, but it is. And if you're trying to turn pro in that division, knowing who you're getting in front of, I think is important. Now, you're not going to know anything about that until you get in front of specific judges, right? But
Right.
once you do, and you kind of get that feedback from them, you can kind of pick and choose which ones are going to give you the best opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's just how, I mean, Paul can obviously speak on this more because he has more experience with this, but like with, bikini pros and running the pro circuit, like you kind of tend to know which judges tend to favor your look or like your look. And sometimes there's a level of strategy behind like, who you want to get behind at certain shows. So totally agree with that, Evan.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the nice things about the fit model division is that, you know, one thing that I ran into in with the pro bikini division, which, for many years that was my sole focus, and I think I had 8 different athletes qualify for the Bikini Olympia over a couple years, is you start to pay attention to judging tendencies. And there are judges who have judged athletes so many times. You see somebody like Ashley Kaltwasser has run 55 pro shows. I guarantee you there is a judge or two that have judged the majority of those. And so there are these like judging competition relationships that you just almost feel like is a glass ceiling where competitors go, "Oh, I'm going to this show with this competitor and this judge. I'm not winning." Right? we don't have that right now with Fit Model. We don't have that relationship where when the pro shows happen, everyone right now is going, we don't know what's going to happen. All the new pros, all the former bikini pros, anybody that shows up to this show, it is a free for all. Last week when they had that pro show with Ashley Kay, nobody questioned who was winning that show before it even happened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? We just knew. And so I'm excited for that dynamic to change. Whereas we're gonna be discovering. And if I'm being honest, it's made going to these shows a bit more fun because it's less pressure. You know, as a coach, when you coach really high level athletes, the expectations for the athlete and the coach, you know, pressure is a privilege, they say, but it's still pressure. You know, there's nights where I don't sleep because someone got second at a pro show. Whereas early in my career, if you told me I was going to have somebody get second at a pro show, I would have said, no way, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
it kind of flips that dynamic. And that's what's going to be fun this year is let's just see what happens. That I don't get nervous for call outs in Fit Model because I'm just like, let's just see what happens. I
Yeah.
remember, so Lexi and I won both the overalls at Ben Weider. We won the open and the 35. At no point during that day was I nervous to win an overall. I was
Right.
just like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like that is the best, like those make for the most enjoyable show experiences too, because I feel like I know I tell my athletes this, not to say like, I always say go into the show, don't put any pressure on yourself. Like, don't go in with expectations. And I don't tell somebody that in the sense of like, I don't think they're going to win, but it's like when you go into a show and you have this like preconceived like expectation of yourself, or, you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to win the overall. Like, I love that you're setting the bar high for yourself, but then it's like when that doesn't happen, you just get very disappointed. And there's just those nerves going into it when you put all that pressure on yourself and those expectations. So sometimes those shows where you just go in and okay, I'm bringing my best, let's see what happens. Those are the best, like that's the best experience. That's the funnest like show that you can have.
Yep. I mean, it absolutely is. And, especially letting your clients know when it comes to fit model too, right? That you're never going to know the way the cookie crumbles. Now, other divisions like bikini and things like that, if you have a track record of being in first calls and winning overalls, you're going to expect a certain level that comes with that. And typically it kind of does follow that, right? I was talking to a few athletes this weekend about me when I was an amateur and how I don't remember being outside a first call out in a national show. It happened once outside of my first show. I just expected it, right? I expected it because that's where I had been. I had a track record that was there. So it's okay to expect it there at that point, right? But until you built up that expectation at high level shows, you cannot go in with an expectation because if you do, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, I had a former competitor of mine who hadn't competed in a while, and we were talking, and she hadn't done a bikini pro show in a while, and I was like, "Oh, so you're back. It's cool to see you. What's your goal for the show?" And she's like, "Well, if I don't win, I'm quitting." And I wanted to be like, first things first, you're not winning. You haven't been on stage in a while. Second of all, have you seen who's here at this show? Like there are multiple current top Olympians at this show.
Yeah.
So that I knew right away. I was like, that's you're just set up for you cannot have that. You can have the mindset like I'm here to be competitive and I want to see how I compete. But the minute you just say like it's all or nothing, I promise you it's going to be nothing. And you're just going to, you know,
Yeah.
not want
And
to compete anymore.
I think a lot of people that think that way, they equate effort to automatically should equal results. Like I worked really hard for this, and if I don't win, it was worth none of it. And I think people equate those two things. And if you go into it with that mindset, look, I understand that mindset. If you put a lot into something, you want to get a result for it. But also, that's not the way it works in any aspect of life. So why is this going to be any different?
Right. Right. And
Right. Right.
listen, bodybuilding is a meritocracy. Like so many times it's just who continues to show up and make these micro improvements versus the people that show up amazing for two or three shows, don't get what they want, and then they lose it. They and so you know.
Yeah. And and I know another thing that I've been talking with a couple of my clients about. So I've had a couple clients this year that have taken this year off to just build, and they want to do Masters Nationals this upcoming year. And and it'll be their first national show. And one thing I've told them of is like they have great physiques, but I think another thing that can really set you apart at a national level is your posing, right? Like, sometimes I don't want to make it sound like you can get away with bad posing at a regional level, but at the national level, like especially for bikini, everybody looks good, right? Like everybody looks great physique wise. So it's like most of the time, right? You're not going to have as many outliers. And so how you can set yourself apart is making sure you nail your posing, making sure you have that it factor on stage through your fluidity, through your grace, knowing your angles, right? Core control. So, I think that's another thing that, if you don't take posing super seriously at a regional level, well, that could be something that really makes or breaks you at a national level, especially in bikini. Again, when everybody for the most part looks amazing physique wise, like that can be the thing that really sets you apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. Little things around the edges. Like when you get to a national show, unless you have the most, by far, like overwhelmingly impressive physique, everything matters at that level. It does. Unless you are just an absolute
Absolutely.
total freak of nature. And those,
Right.
and if you're listening to this, I'm not saying you aren't, but you probably are not. Those are very, very few that are out there like that. Very, very few. Very few. Most of us need everything. Most of us need everything.
Yeah, and the higher up you get, with the competitiveness of shows, so if we're talking nationals, like the more those little things that we've talked about, like the more those little things matter, such as not skimping on your makeup, not skimping on your hair. I know you've talked, Paul, about how your client Lauren from this past weekend, I think you mentioned she got like you had her get some hair extensions
Hmm.
for nationals, which, like at a regional level, okay, maybe she could probably do without those, but at a national level, like those little things that may even just add that extra 1 to 2%, they can make a difference, right? The hair extensions, not maybe doing your own makeup, maybe hiring a professional makeup artist. Like those little things matter. Your suit, maybe at a regional level, you can get away with having a suit that is a little bit, I don't know.
Let's give a shout out to Rosalinda.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
a client of yours or just a friend?
Yeah, so yeah, we can take a second to do that. That would be awesome. Yeah, my client, so Rosalinda is my client. She's been working with me for a little over a year now. She's a fit model competitor, but she also is a professional makeup artist. So she came to the show this past weekend and she told me about this a long time ago. She's like, I just booked my flight. I want to come. I want to see if I can get some girls that I can just do makeup for. So I helped her get like 6, 7 girls, and she did a lot of our team's makeup. I know she did my clients, she did Lauren's, she did Dakota's, and she wants to do more of that this year. So, yeah, so you guys, if you're looking for a good makeup artist, follow Rosalinda. It's Glam by Rosalinda on Instagram because I'm working with her right now to kind of help her to figure out what shows are, worthwhile her going to or worthwhile for her to go to this year for makeup. And I know she's going to be at the Arnold. So that's the
Yeah.
first one that will be on her list. So yeah, she's great. And I think it helps too. Like, I don't know any other professional stage makeup artists out there that are also competitors. So like she gets, like that she tries not to give people like 3 a.m. makeup slots and she gets like being a competitor in that side of it as well. So she's awesome.
Well, and her
Highly
doing
recommend her.
the touch ups before finals was huge.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, she was so cute too because she actually made little kits for the girls that she was handing out after she did their makeup, like with little touch-up things. But yeah, she had everybody who wanted to come to our room at like 5:30 before finals, and she was touching girls up. So she was touching up Lauren, Dakota. So yeah, I felt like that's something you don't see a lot of makeup artists do at all. So
No, she was awesome. Like everyone's makeup looked absolutely phenomenal that she did. It was
agreed.
great.
Agreed. Yeah. So I know for sure she'll be at the Arnold Amateur. So if you're competing there and you want a girl to do your makeup, she will be there. And then we're working on getting some more shows on her calendar for the year.
Yeah,
Like it's,
I think what's happened with the makeup stuff is there tends to be like kind of almost like a monopoly with some of the makeup artists, and um, the service just starts to just drop off. The schedules, the communication drops, and it's just it's good to have somebody that's fresh and not overwhelmed, and you
Mhm.
know only takes what they can handle.
Yeah, I agree with that. And
Sure.
yeah, I know an issue I've run into this past year with some of my clients is, a little bit of anxiety when they don't have
Mhm.
their makeup, like, they don't know where they're going to go get their makeup done at what time slot they're at until like the night prior to the show. Like that can be a little nerve-wracking for some people. So yeah, Rosalinda's awesome.
One thing I want to touch on about the presentation too, and how I really think that is important, is like let's just take this year's Olympia as an example. If Ashlyn would have had the look and the stage presentation of Marine had, I think no one would have had an issue with Ashlyn winning. No one. Look, you have to have the physique. That's number one. But if things are close and you can separate yourself with presentation, it's not just your posing, it's the looks that you give, it's your facial expressions, it's the smoothness of it. Do you look comfortable up there? Do you look at home up there? Do you look like you could do this in your sleep? If you can do those types of things and you have the physique, it gives you a big leg up, a big leg up.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
fun.
let's talk about the Arnold. They announced the
Yeah.
Bikini Arnold,
Hmm.
and this is a good opportunity to throw those names out there because it's some usual suspects, but I think there was also some girls that we were a little surprised aren't going to be there.
Yeah, for sure. I think when that list came out on Friday.
Hmm.
So, yeah, the day we were sitting there watching Nationals. So, let me just pull up that list right now because I don't have it
Well,
memorized.
the name that everyone was probably curious about was Laura Lee. She is on the list, and
Yeah.
she's been busy. She's been at a lot of shows. I see her every weekend. She was at Nationals once again, um, and we're 11 weeks out. So she's. I mean, I thought she looked pretty good in person. That's one of those things. Laura Lee can fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah, and she actually just announced that she's working with a new coach.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just really happy for her. She
Oh,
seems very just, I don't know, just renewed. She just seems like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I think anybody who's been around her lately can probably attest to the fact she just seems really happy. She seems just very at peace. And I think, I mean, I would not be surprised if we see the best Laura Lee we've ever seen at the Arnold this year.
Yeah, she's a fighter. Like she does not like to lose. A lot of times you can see these competitors and think like, oh, they're just nice people. Yeah, she's a nice person,
Yeah.
but she is very clearly like a champion. And I've said this about Issa in the past as well. A lot of people wrote her off after she won the Olympia, dropped to sixth. Everyone thought she was done. No, she came back and fought for more wins. And I think the same thing as Laura Lee. Whenever a competitor slips, I think everyone just goes, oh, that's it for them. No, these
Yeah.
girls when they come back with and make a statement, it shows. And so, and then you have second from the Olympia, Ashlyn, who would technically be the favorite, but then you've got Amy right there, right? So I think, and then we have not seen Ashley Kay at the Arnold in a few years, right?
mhm.
Correct. Yeah. So I just pulled up the list. So we have Ashlyn Little, Ashley Kotwasser, Raina Perez, Jordan Lee, Laura Lee, Amy, um, Tiana, Sharon Ramos, and I'm gonna butcher the name Zin Yi Chen. And then we also have the girl that won the Arnold overall last year in bikini, and won her pro card. Her name is, I think it's Juliana, but she's on the list as
Yeah.
well.
Now that girl was something special.
Yeah.
If she's
She
improved, if she's added the muscle to go along with her shape and her conditioning that she had, that girl
Oh,
had some wow
she,
factor.
yeah, she was incredible. And she actually, I want to say she did like two pro shows after she won her pro card at the Arnold. And I want to say the first one she did at her pro debut, she got first call outs. Or actually, I
Yeah.
want to say she even got like third. So she did pretty well. And then I don't think she's competed since the spring. So, and those competitors are always the ones to watch. The ones that maybe shut it down for a little while and stay out of prep and grow. And, they usually come
Mhm.
back
Hmm.
most of the time pretty heavy hitting.
Well, let me tell you, that Arnold is, first of all, nobody outside of those four that we missed it is winning it, right? Either Laura Lee, Ashley, or obviously Amy are probably going to be the contenders. I still think Reina Perez can beat all of them on any given day. But outside of those, so the risk you run as a competitor in doing a show on February 28th is now your season is really long. And the Olympia is all the way up to September. And there's less shows to qualify for. Now you have to win two shows to qualify. So doing that Arnold is a bit of a risk if you're trying to actually get to the Olympia.
Yeah.
It's an honor to get invited because they
Mhm.
only invite 11 girls plus the overall winner. But it's also one of those situations where if you're an up and coming competitor like this, let's just say this the Juliana girl that won the overall tournament, she's going there, unless she makes an incredible leap forward, she's not winning. Even if she gets like third, that would be incredible. But she's still got to go win two shows to get to the Olympia. And
Right.
there's not another show for a while, right? It's like this very tough window for a competitor. So it's going to be very interesting the strategy around these athletes that are doing this show.
I wonder why they don't move the Arnold back like 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, I think it would, not that it's not big, it would be even bigger. And the names, it would get be even bigger because people could roll into that show and roll into shows right after without just such big breaks.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was meant to be like a season A, season B Olympia, because you look at the prize money for the Arnold, it's crazy what they pay the bodybuilders. Not
Yes.
crazy, but it's like so maybe it's because it was bodybuilding centric. They
Yeah.
they kept them because when we were growing up, Evan, the Arnold was the Mr. Olympia guy did never, the champion hardly ever never did the Arnold. It was
No.
like I won the Olympia. It's time for me to take a full off season and come back. Then someone like Jay Cutler, who got second at the Olympia, would go win the Arnold. And then it would be like, okay, now it's a rematch of the Arnold champion and the Olympia.
Hmm.
It's not like that anymore. Last year, Derek
No.
swept all three, and Samson was there. The Olympia champion lost at the Arnold, which is another reason why I think in the future, like this year, Derek's not doing it. So you might see that. But with bikini, it's not as much time off needed
Yeah.
from the drugs and from the muscle building perspective. So yeah, I don't know. It's a show that Laura Lee has dominated. What she won three now. This will be she didn't compete this year, but she had won the three previous, or was it four? She's won a bunch. Hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure, but I'm rooting for her this year. I feel like it'd be cool to see her come back, win the Arnold, especially after the Olympia.
and
We're
look,
all
I
just
completely
rooting for
get
her to be the best version of herself. Who
Yeah.
wins? Listen, the direction this division is going, you know, it's going to be interesting because what we see at nationals and at the regional shows doesn't always show up at the Arnold and the Olympia as far as judging criteria.
yeah,
For
it's
sure.
true. Well, definitely not the Olympia, it seems.
Yeah,
Um,
and I know I'm planning on going to the Arnold. Paul, I know you are. Evan, do you think you'll be there?
Here's my question, and this is always a fun question to ask, and this is just for fun. You take Maureen from the Olympia stage, you bring her to nationals this year. No one knows who she is. My vote is she's not winning.
no,
She's not winning her class
nope.
because the conditioning standard is so high at these national shows. They're not taking into account, oh, who's got the best flow. It's like, you know,
Like it's interesting, right? And it'd be interesting to know if this is kind of a one-off thing that happened because there was a lot of variables I feel that played in. And look, this past Olympia, I think was very hard to judge from bikini standard of all divisions. I think it was by far the hardest to pick a
mhm.
winner. Now, if Laura Lee would have came in like Laura Lee normally comes in, I don't think it really been much of a debate along with that, but she didn't, and that
Well,
opened the
let's talk
door.
about who's not on the list from our top, let's say top 15. You want to pull up the top 15 at the Olympia real quick, Lexi, and because there's a quite a few competitors that I was expecting to be on that list that weren't. Some competitors that at the end of the season were really hot. Someone like a Jordan Brannon. I thought, man, she's really making moves. I thought, for what it's worth, I thought based on how her season ended, she would have been fighting for that top 10 first call out.
Yeah. So, and funny you mentioned her because I was listening to a podcast with her earlier this week, and I actually think, don't quote me, but she had mentioned on the podcast, I think she is coming close to retiring. Not retiring yet, but
Mm.
from the sounds of it, it sounded like this will be probably her last year. So, but yeah, so obviously we don't see Maureen, we don't see
Yeah,
Jackie Gonzalez, um, Evie. She placed seventh at the Olympia. She's not on the list. Vanya, she's not on the list. Ariana Brothers. Let's see. Yeah, those would be the ones that made the top
the
15.
biggest surprise for me is the Maureen because she's never won the Arnold.
Right.
And she had a lot of time off. And I feel like if she would have just taken the look she had from the Olympia, come in just a little bit tighter for the Arnold, she'd probably be the favorite, or definitely would be the favorite. So I'm curious, I'm sure she has reasons for not doing it. Um, Obviously, Jazzy, who was in the middle at the Olympia, she was in there for a minute, right? They were
Yeah.
Mhm.
considering her for first or second. Um, but I wonder if there's a reason, if a strategy there, if it's just fatigue or if it's just, if there's a reason why she's not there. She did not do well at the Arnold last year. She came in like really ripped, like so lean that she didn't even make that top five. Um,
Who was
Evie,
this?
that was Jazzy Gonzalez.
Ghazi, that's right.
Remember
That's
how
right.
lean I mean, because she
Yeah.
got
She
third,
was,
she got fourth at the Olympia or third, and then so everyone was watching her to win, and then she just now Vanya won the Arnold, and she's not coming back. That's interesting to me too. She
Right.
she took a dip at the Olympia. She kind of fell a little ways.
mhm.
Um, so I'm surprised to see that she's not competing there. And again, you don't know if they aren't competing because they didn't apply, but you would assume any Arnold champion is invited if they apply. Um, I
Yeah.
even jokingly said to Laura Lee when I saw her at Nationals, I said, "Congratulations on getting on
I
the
know.
Arnold list."
I know you were just waiting for that list to come out to make sure you were on
Yeah,
it. I know. I'm sure she was holding her breath.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, not trying to jump to assumptions, but somebody like Vanya, I feel like, gosh, I can only imagine the amount of pressure that these athletes have when they're constantly, competing at these prestigious shows. So it just kind of makes you
hmm
wonder, maybe she just needs a little bit of like, maybe not even just a physical break, but just a mental break, like these
yeah.
people, these athletes, they're humans too. And I mean, gosh, I think about that all the time about not just the physical demands, but more of the mental demands. Like somebody like Laura Lee, goes into a show like the Arnold or the Olympia. Well, a lot of people are going to have her as like, oh, they're predicted first place, and that's just got to be a lot of pressure on these athletes mentally.
I think too, there was a podcast with Matt Jansen on it the other day where he was talking about Nick, not, when they pulled out of Olympia the previous year. And I think this thought process applies to a lot of people with it. And he said, yeah, we could have got him on stage. He said, but would it have been an Olympia worthy physique for him? Would it have been an improvement for him? And we didn't think that would have been the case. So why would we do it? And I think that goes with a lot of people. They have a lot of things going on. If they have big life changes, if they're tired mentally, maybe they need a break, and they realize that they're not going to be able to put in what's required to be able to be in the placing that people expect them to be. Why would you put yourself in a position to not be successful in that way? And to me, that makes complete sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so it'll be a fun show and I feel like it always sneaks up on us really quickly too. I mean, yes, technically the season is pretty much kind of coming to an end and there's not as much in January and February, but gosh, that Arnold it sneaks up on us every year and it'll be here before we know it. So, yeah.
Not far off. Like
Yeah.
two
Oh no, I
months.
mean, I
It's
have
about two
literally
months,
athletes in prep for the Arnold right now. Like that's so.
Yeah.
I've got a young lady competing this weekend in bikini, my last athlete of the year. Obviously, December 20th would be, but she's doing the show this weekend. And then obviously, I think she's going to dominate. She looks great, incredible.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but the point is, that's our Arnold, warm up. So like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's already Arnold prep time.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Like I sometimes I get like it is nice, I think, like as a coach to have a little bit of downtime, right? Like in January and February, but it is kind of sometimes sad once the last show of the year kind of wraps up and you're like, oh, like I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I feel that way, but
I miss the days of November 25th being nationals, and that was the
yeah.
last show.
Yeah.
Um, I
I do
like that
enjoy a little
feeling.
break. Yeah.
I'm hoping they move nationals back up a little earlier, you know,
right,
because now
right.
with the Olympia being all the way in September again, because that was the real problem. Now they have the opportunity to move nationals, but we'll see. It just comes
Yeah,
down to what they want to do. Um, the
right.
nationals, I would say, was a success. The numbers seemed, when you add the 100 girls from Fit Model, it brought the numbers back in line. I really wish they would. I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but I wish they would get rid of the 8 classes and 2 pro cards for figure and bikini.
Yeah.
I don't think bikini needs to be giving away 16 pro cards to 140 girls because all you're doing is weakening the NPC bikini division.
Yeah. And how many of these girls that won the pro card are ready to go in there and stand on a pro stage based on the muscularity level? Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them.
I
Look, they're
mean,
very
maybe the
impressive.
top two from the overall.
Yeah, everyone's impressive. Trust me, everyone's impressive. But there is a significant jump in bikini now from that. Significant jump.
Yeah.
And one thing to think about the length of the season too, guys, it's not just the coaches and the athletes, it's the judges. These days are long days, and these judges are having, like at this point, 2 months off from judging, maybe. And then they're getting thrown right back
Well, I
in the
mean,
mix of
Sandy
everything
Sandy
again.
was at Nationals and she's judging the first pro fit model show in February.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, these judges, I mean, they're amazing. They sit there for long hours. I mean, but I know that I think all of them say the same thing. They do it because they love it. They wouldn't do it if they didn't
Yeah.
love it. And I think all the judges, you've talked to them before. They really just love this sport.
Mhm.
Well, we were
And
standing backstage
yeah,
after
so that's fine.
Nationals getting feedback with our athletes, and you would think Sandy just woke up at 9 a.m. She had so much energy because we're
I
like, her
know.
line was going so slow.
She was giving the and I mean this in the best way possible, the longest feedback because I was I remember texting Brooke when because she immediately ran back there after her class, and I mean it was not a very quick moving
Yeah.
line by any means, but
It was,
she really loves the sport. I mean, they
yes.
all do. They love the sport. They wouldn't stay after to provide feedback for the athletes if they didn't. Especially, after the long day. I mean, they're up at the crack of dawn. They're sitting there all day judging. They don't really get a huge break in between prejudging and finals. And then, staying after to get feedback, like that is just a testament to like the fact that, I don't know, the quality of judges they're great.
Yeah, and look, her line was probably 3 hours long, I would
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
And big shout out to like Jack Tatone and then Bernadette for coming back and getting
Jack
feedback from them
Sullivan,
too.
right?
Jack Sullivan, I'm sorry, right, Jack Sullivan, sorry. Going back and standing there and giving other opportunities for feedback. They care, guys. They care. And this was late at this point too, and they had been there since early in the morning, and they're all standing there, really giving feedback, really caring. It is not BS. I mean, for
Well,
my
and
clients
they
that will
had to
sit
be back
there,
there at 8 a.m. the next
yeah.
day for the men. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ah,
They get
right.
nothing out of this, guys, other than helping you. And I know people can look at the judging and complain about it. I even see some people who didn't turn pro on Instagram saying they got disqualified because they didn't get their pro card and they felt like that was the only reason is because they disqualified them because of their look or some garbage like that. It's they do this because they love it. You may not get the outcome that you want with it. And look, there's a lot of disappointed people. And we were joking around with some of the athletes on the class that's like 32 girls, and we're like, well, there's going to be 31 disappointed people in that class. And that's the case, right? That's going to be the case with any of these divisions. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants first call outs. Everyone wants the pro card. Everyone does.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up for today. Any final thoughts from you guys?
I mean, if anyone's still listening, tell us your goal for next year. Like, what is your
Yeah.
goal? I'll be honest. My goal is I want to have a competitor on the Fit Model Olympia stage.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Yeah. Let's hear some goals. Comment below your goals. Maybe we can, you know, I don't know if we'll go through them next week, but we can maybe talk about some of those goals and maybe that'll bring about a topic for next week's episode.
Yeah.
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 And guys, I think goal setting is incredibly important. I've had a lot of calls with clients this week about things like that. Like, what are your goals for next year? And make them also attainable goals without judging requirements. Like, I want to add a specific amount of muscle to this group. I want to refine my posing in this way. Don't tie your success and your progression based off your placings alone. It's good to have goals in how you place, guys. It really, really is. But it's also you need to be you're setting yourself up for failure if you were not in the first call outs of like a bikini regional show and you're like, I want to win the overall to national show. Like that's probably not going to happen in that short amount of time. It's probably not in bikini. So be realistic with your goals. And if you can set goals that are achievable, then you can, once you achieve that goal, you set your next goal, then your next goal, then your next goal. Stair step your goals up. Because if you set a goal that's so high and you don't reach it, it's incredibly deflating.
Yeah.
And in a sport that requires growth, off-season, and patience, you need to have goals that are attainable. You can, of course, have your big goals, but have stair steps along the way.
Absolutely. And I guess I'll leave with this on that topic. I always tell people your goals if they scare you but also excite you at the same time, set them, go after them. I feel like
Mhm.
every good goal you should feel like obviously you want to be realistic, but it should scare you a little bit at the same time. I think that's when you know it's a goal that's going to really force you to level up and challenge yourself.
And this is the last thing I'll say too, going back on that and conversation I've had with a lot of clients recently that are close to pro cards. And the conversation I had with is, hey, enjoy this time, because that's something I didn't. Um, it's a really cool feeling knowing you're going to each show and have a shot to win. That's a really cool feeling. And you don't get that a lot in this sport until you're incredibly high, level at the NPC level or incredibly high at the pro level. Most people are kind of wandering somewhere in the middle. So if you're one of those people that has a shot to win most shows they walk into, embrace that. Embrace that. And that's where setting that big goal of like, I want to turn pro and that's the only thing that's going to make me happy is going to dilute a lot of those little wins along the way and a lot of the joy along with it.
Yep.
All
Well,
right. Well, you guys have a good week leading
yep.
into Christmas, and I guess we'll be talking about some New Year's stuff next.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, guys.
See ya.